Hello and welcome to my channel. Today I'm reviewing the new Laura Mercier Tinted Moisturizer and the Nars Orgasm on the Beach palette. So let's just get right into the review. I'll do a demo, I'll do a wear test, I'll tell you all my thoughts at the end, and it'll be a lot of fun. So I'm starting with the Tinted Moisturizer, and this is what it looks like. It's a pretty giant tube, and there is actually 50 mils or 1.7 fluid ounce in this tube. It's supposed to be oil-free and it's called a natural skin perfector. I have mine in the shade O1N, ON1 I mean, Petal, which was the lightest neutral shade they had. It comes in a regular squeeze tube. Oh, I think this shade is actually going to be fine. So it's a pretty thick and creamy consistency. It feels kind of nice on my hand. And it does seem to cover quite a bit. Here it's going over the vein. And you can barely see it anymore. So my guess is that for a tinted moisturizer, this is pretty pigmented. It also has SPF 20 and it has a shelf life of 18 months. So I think I'm just going to apply this with a brush. I'm taking out, maybe this is too much. With a pump it's easier. And let's see. Yeah, it's really quite thick. I won't usually wear a primer with tinted moisturizers, but I feel like for this one, it would benefit from it. It has a slight perfumey, makeup-y scent, but nothing too bad. It's really, really thick. I almost feel like mixing it in with something. And it's a little bit difficult to blend out because the streaks of my brush remain visible. Alright, so that's the tinted moisturizer on half of my face. As you can see, the coverage is pretty high. I would actually call this a medium. Yeah, it's definitely more than a medium finish. All my redness is gone. Most of my post-blemish marks are hardly visible. I mean, you can still see a little bit of skin, so it's sort of a medium foundation, I would say. And I do like the finish. Even though it says it's oil-free, it does look a little bit oily. Or at least glowy. A little bit like the glowish skin tint that I tried. This foundation is definitely a little bit too pink for me. Alright, let's apply it to the other half of my face. So that's it applied to my entire face, and I have to say it looks very nice. It looks kind of glowy, fresh. It feels a little bit thick. So I don't always love that feeling. And it's not the perfect shade match. It's actually oxidizing a little bit. So I do have a line of demarcation here where it's just a little bit too dark and it's also a little bit too pink. So I'm still glad I didn't choose 1W1 because that would have probably been too dark. But this is okay, this is manageable, I can wear this. So I'm going to do my concealer and a little bit of powder just on the places where I use my concealer, and then we'll go into the Nars After... Why do I want to call it the Afterglow palette? Then we're going into the Nars Orgasm on the Beach palette. I'm back, I did most of my makeup. I only set my concealer with a little bit of powder right here, and I used a little bit of bronzer. Ooh! That looks a little bit stark on camera. I promise you, in real life it's better. That's better. It's gotta look a little bit good on camera as well. Everything I'm wearing on my face will be listed down below, but I just want to mention that I'm wearing the Essence Chrome On Duochrome Liquid Eyeshadow on my eyes. And it's pretty cool. It kind of reminds me of the ones from Natasha Denona that came out a little while ago. I think they're really pretty. They have a bunch of shades. So let's get into the NARS palette. This is what it looks like. It's very pretty and it has a pretty tight clasp as always. And this is what the shades look like. So my guess is that these three are blushes and also that one, and that these are two highlighters. But this could also be a highlighter on a very deep skin tone perhaps. So that's my guess, that it's meant to be 3 blushes and 3 highlighters. But for me it's definitely more like 5 blushes and 1 highlighter. I was really intrigued by this palette because there's this beautiful apricot shade over here. I'm curious to see if the highlighter will be light enough for me. Ooh, sort of the same depth as my skin tone, so we shall see. I shall swatch the whole palette. Yeah, that lightest highlight is going to be just a little bit too deep for me. But I think it'll work. So these are the 3 upper shades. These feel really nice and creamy, by the way. This is that beautiful blush. This is the iconic Orgasm shade with a little bit of gold in it. And this is, of course, the more reddish tone. So I think those are beautiful. Really, really pretty. I'm going to start with this darkest highlighting shade and I'm going to put that a little bit at the back of my cheeks. See, that looks kind of nice. Sort of as a contour kind of shade. The formula of these is fantastic. Alright, now I want to go into my peachy shade over here. And I'm just going to apply that on the rest of my cheek. That's pretty. Look at the difference. I was worried that these would be too shiny, but they're not, they're beautiful. Alright, now I'm going in with the lightest highlighter. See, it is a little bit darker than my skin tone. This happens to me with NARS palettes all the time. It's okay, I can just use it as a blush or something. Ah, it doesn't even look that bad. So that was the NARS palette. Now, of course, the real question is going to be, how do these products wear? Because I personally like to set a formula like this foundation with quite a bit of powder because it feels a little bit tacky. It still does. And it almost moved my foundation when I used the NARS products. So it's going to be the question how these perform over time. It is now about 4 o'clock, which is a little bit late, but I plan to stay up till like 12 or 1. So I'll do an 8 or 9 hour wear test and hopefully that'll tell us enough for now. So I'll see you in a little bit for my first check-in. So I thought it was high time for an update, even though it's only been 2 hours since I've been wearing this. Because I just took a little trip outside to the supermarket, not even that long. And it is a little bit hot, but not extremely. And already the foundation is sort of gathering in crevices. So here, in between my my cupid's bow, there is actually a little line of foundation from where the sweat went through. Sorry if that's gross. And also I had a telephone call, so I hold my phone next to my ear and I saw this mark right here. I patted it out, but there was a mark left. So this is definitely not a transfer proof foundation, and it's actually not a sweat proof foundation either. Also, I think it's a little bit too glowy. Now, something I forgot to mention, the technique. Apply to clean skin with a foundation sponge or with fingertips. So I already did that wrong. That's my bad. That will probably help with how thick this foundation is, to do it with a damp sponge. For added shine control, set with Laura Mercier's iconic translucent loose setting powder. So I thought that was kind of funny. But to use setting powder with this foundation seems to be a really good idea. I think the places where I did use a little bit of powder, so a little bit went over here, it actually looks flawless. But over where I applied my bronzer and blush and everything, it became a little bit patchy. So I think this is the kind of foundation, and I am calling it a foundation because it's pretty high coverage. Well, alright. I think for this tinted moisturizer you really have to set it down with a powder. And then it'll be fine. I think that'll make it a little bit more transfer proof as well. It's just, it doesn't feel like a very summery skin tint like foundation to me. It really is quite a heavy product. For me, this will be ideal in winter when I'm actually a little bit craving a thicker layer of something on my skin. But not in summer, it's just a little bit too heavy. If I compare it to my all-time favorite skin tint, the Glowish by Huda Beauty, this is actually more glowy, but it looks less oily. There's something about the way this looks that doesn't look shiny or glowy, but just sweaty and oily and heavy. And this one doesn't do that. This one has the little pearls in it that give it a nice luminous effect without actually looking sweaty or oily. And also this feels a lot more lightweight. So I just want to give that little update. Also, I forgot to mention, my skin is pretty much normal, but I am feeling a little bit more oily in the past couple of weeks, probably because it's been a little bit warm. So that's just for reference, I forgot to mention that. And well, it's only been 2 hours. I wonder how the rest of the evening will go. I am planning on walking the dog again for a longer period of time. I'm also going to eat a pizza. And I'm probably also going to make another phone call. So let's see how it holds up. Hello, it's currently 11:30. So I've been wearing this foundation for about 8 hours, a little bit less. But it's starting to itch a little bit and I kind of want to get it off my face because I've been sweating and it's been breaking up and it didn't really behave anymore since then. So as you can see, it's sort of rubbed off my chin. And I don't know if you can see, but on top of my lip, it looks really blotchy. It looks like I've been dabbing it with tissues while it was still wet. And that's probably because I was sweating a little bit because it was pretty hot today. And I did my best not to touch anything, and I don't think I did, but still, because of the moisture, it just sort of broke up and left these little marks. So I didn't think that was too flattering. On my forehead it stayed about as shiny as it was in the beginning, so not too bad. But still, looks a little bit too oily for my liking. You can actually see this light mark over here, which is not too pretty, I don't think. But I haven't touched on the NARS palette and how that wore. Let me take a close inspection. Yeah, that's what I thought. I think the NARS products really remain very well on my face. You can definitely still see the blush, I can still see the highlight, and also the bronzer topper that I applied. They all still look very pretty. Also here, now I'm back to the foundation, here between my eyebrows, it's also starting to break off. And then what I found after a couple of hours was that it settled in my smile lines and a little bit in between the Cupid's bow. But I already mentioned that. So I think this foundation or this tinted moisturizer is okay. Not if you're oily, I don't think it's going to be pretty. But if you're normal like me, I think it's going to be fine. Maybe if you're dry, you'll love it. I'm not sure about that. Maybe it'll be too thick for you to spread evenly. I think with the proper primer, so like a more smoothing primer underneath, like I do with my matte foundations, and then a little bit of powder on top, this could be beautiful, this could be great. But like this, with pretty much no powder, it was just a little bit too much. So I'm going to take the advice that's on the package and try to add some translucent setting powder. But not the one from Laura Mercier, haha. So that was it for this video. I hope you enjoyed my little review of these two products. And subscribe to my channel if you did find this review helpful or did enjoy yourself. And I will see you in the next video.